Welcome to the draft ranking series. It's draft season, which means it is time to rank the best of the best. This is the last video on the offensive side of the ball, as today we dive into the offensive tackles and the interior offensive linemen. This layout is a little bit different. I'm going to go over the top 5 offensive tackles and the top 5 interior offensive linemen, and 6 through 10 will still receive a shout out. They just won't get the in-depth analysis. If you're new, subscribe to the channel, as I'm doing every positional group on the defense as well. But for now, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and welcome to the top 10 offensive linemen in the 2024 NFL Draft. Enjoy. Beginning with the top 5 offensive tackles, at number 5, I have Washington tackle Troy Fautanu, the most important blocker on one of the nation's best offensive lines. Fautanu was a guy that I was really excited to watch on film, and I'm still excited to see how he pans out, because this guy is a stud. Fautanu is on the athletic side of things when it comes to blocking. He's got great lateral ability to mirror rushers and cover large ground with his shuffle steps. He also is an explosive athlete with quick footwork that allows for him to use his play strength efficiently as well. Even when it comes to the play strength, he puts together some great hand technique and grip strength that allows for that intriguing combination of power and athleticism. Along with these, Fautanu has a great bend and he provides a good initial strike. So Fautanu's positives give him a good combination of physical and athletic traits. But when you look at his negatives, you become truly concerned on if he will translate over to the NFL at a high level. The first translation concern is his frame. He's only 6'4", which lands in the 17th percentile for height. His weight is 55th though. Second off, he tends to play a little overly aggressive, and against quicker rushers he might lose balance more often. But outside of those, he does struggle defending inside swim moves, which ties into the aggression with him trying to take the edge early. If the edge rusher sets the edge before him though, he does tend to get a bit grabby. So Fautanu has these translation concerns, but there's no doubt that he's a great blocker and he should translate over. He gets an A- grade, which is an early second round nod, and a 73 overall. Yeah, this offensive tackle class is stacked. Moving on to number 4, I have the first of 2 right tackles to make this list, but it might not be the one you're thinking of. The first one up is actually Oregon State's Talisa Fuaga. Daniel Jeremiah recently said that this guy is the number 1 offensive tackle in the draft, and while I disagree, you still can't put him under the radar. Fuaga is quite possibly the best run blocker in this class. At 6'6", 334 pounds, he has some of the best play strength I've scouted, and he rarely gets knocked back. The initial strike he brings puts so much power on the defender that it knocks them off balance more than the normal blocker would knock them off. He does a great job at transitioning between blocking assignments. He uses his nice length to cover inside swims with ease. He is a great in-the-moment decision maker that takes advantages of defenders' mistakes, and he always stays close to the offensive line. So Fuaga brings a lot of notable run blocking traits with some pass protection traits as well. But there needs to be more efficient pass pro out of Fuaga, especially if he gets drafted to a pass-heavy team. Just like Fautanu, the overly aggressive nature haunts Fuaga at times, but he does this more in pass pro than anything. He's got an inconsistent technique when dropping that back foot, as he tends to play upright and can't use his footwork to mirror pass rushers consistently. Along with that, he does get hit happy when blocking upfield, and he can lose his balance fairly easily performing these blocks. And if you know me, I have a right tackle tax for my grades, but not for Fuaga. This guy is special. He gets the same stuff as Fautanu, but he beats him out. A-, early second round nod, 73 overall. Here's where we get to the interesting stuff. The top 3 offensive tackles are all first round talents, and it begins with Alabama right tackle J.C. Latham. There's a lot of upside to love with Latham, and while the negatives are concerning, the positives are super appealing. Latham is a big dude standing at 6'6", 342 pounds, but his playstyle is more than what you might think. In terms of physical traits, Latham wins with his play strength, constantly throwing players to the ground with his elite hand tech and grip strength. This technique is present everywhere as well. In terms of athletic traits, he's very athletic for his size, with the lateral ability to mirror athletic rushers. For miscellaneous traits too, he's so good at using defenders' mistakes to his advantage. His size and skill set gives him potential inside-outside positional versatility, and he's great at transitioning between blocks. Latham brings so many positives to the table, but with those positives comes a not so fun list of negatives. He's an impactful blocker out of the gate, but once he's beat, he needs to work on sustaining those blocks. He has a tendency to hold when he gets beat, and that tends to happen when he gets overly aggressive. He also can block on the move, but he tends to get a bit erratic when it involves climbing to the second level. He also just doesn't have great balance altogether, and being a right tackle like Fuaga, he doesn't have the maximum amount of value. So Latham has really high upside for the NFL, and if he can just fix a couple mental traits, he will be a threat for many, many years. Latham's first round grade translates to a 76 overall, which is the same as my number 2 guy. The number 1 and number 2 guys are already public information if you follow my channel, but actually 56 of my subscribers came from the video that revealed this, so shout out to y'all. It's Penn State's Olu Fashanu, and if you want a deeper analysis on this prospect and the number 1 prospect, click the video in the cards. With that being said, this won't take long to analyze. Fashanu is an extremely strong left tackle who shows out with his 6'6", 320-pound frame and other great measurables. He also has the athleticism with his quick feet and good upfield blocks on tape. His great hand technique and grip strength are very visible on tape, and with this combination of traits he has, he can block both edge rushers and interior O-linemen. Negatively, Fashanu does play with a high pad level and tends to give up the edge too easily to athletic rushers. He is also inefficient when trying to block inside stunts, and he's pretty inconsistent with his recovery blocks. Finally, he only had 4 penalties in 2023, but some games did show some uncalled holding, too much for comfort. So Fashanu has plenty of traits that should translate from the high-end college level to the NFL. As I previously mentioned, Fashanu is a 76 overall first round grade. So that leaves Notre Dame offensive tackle Blake Fisher, that leaves Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt to number 1. Just like Fashanu, if you want to watch a deeper analysis on both of these top 2 prospects, click the info button on the top right of the screen. But let's briefly discuss the number 1 offensive tackle in this class. Positively, Alt is a 6'8" tackle who moves extremely well for his size. He's explosive off the line, he's got the lateral ability to mirror rushes, and he finishes all the way through the rep. The play strength is also elite, but primarily in the run where he is able to show that great burst. He also has the great measurables to give him upside as a pass protector, and he overall has the play style that should automatically translate. You'd also think his pad level would be high at 6'8", but his pad level is fantastic. Negatively, he has some odd technique in pass coverage where he plays far from his body, which allows the pocket to collapse with not a lot of leg drive potential. His play strength is great in the run, but it is definitely still a work in progress in pass pro. But overall, Alt has so many great traits that should all translate. Give Alt the keys to be a franchise left tackle. He won't let you down. He's a 77 overall first round grade, and unless anything drastic happens, him and Fashanu will be back to back on my big board. This offensive tackle class is so stacked, and these number 6 to number 10 guys absolutely deserve shoutouts. OT6 is Arizona's Jordan Morgan. OT7 is Georgia's Amarius Mims. OT8 is, sorry if I pronounced this wrong, but it's Yale's Kyron Amagadije? OT9 is Duke's Graham Barton, and OT10 is Houston's Patrick Paul. So with that being said, let's move on to the inside, or let's just move in. All right, my top 5 guys are within the consensus top 6 The one guy who's not on this list I'm actually really low on. But the consensus number 5 interior guy actually surprised me. I'm talking about Kansas guard Dominic Puny. Puny is a guy that I didn't really have high expectations for, but his tape really shocked me. He has a nice combination of physical and athletic traits, but he doesn't really have the full package. Physically, he's got great play strength in both run and pass pro and provides that initial strike to knock rushers backwards. He establishes his hands very quickly and uses that grip strength to sustain the block. Athletically, he's explosive right off the snap and can get upfield really fast when tasked to squeeze up to the second level. And even outside of these, he's a great improviser and recovery blocker, and he's alignment versatile after playing well at left tackle and left guard. So this is definitely an intriguing combination, but as I said before, he doesn't bring the full package of either side. First off, he doesn't move well laterally, which brings heavy translation concerns for playing left tackle at the next level. That's why he's on the inside here. He allows the edge to be set too quick and too often, and even when playing the edge right, he struggled to counter the inside swim moves rushers give him too. Finally, he takes inconsistent angles and is a bit erratic when blocking upfield. So Puny has his concerns, but his intriguing combination of physical traits and athletic traits should draw teams in. The grade that I gave him is a B grade, which is a late second round nod and a 69 overall. At number 4 on this list, I also sadly don't have all 22 film of UConn guard Christian Haynes. Haynes showed out at the Senior Bowl, which made me very excited for the tape. And yeah, he lived up to those expectations. If not, he furthered them. Haynes is a highly experienced guard who can make basically every type of block at high levels. Base block, pull block, upfield block, cut block, you name it, he can do it. He's a gritty player who shows great explosiveness out the gate and finishes with the same effort that he originally provided. He's got the play strength with elite leg drive to make great run blocks. He has the speed and shiftiness to make pull and upfield blocks at quick rates. And he has the ability to block at great angles on those same kinds of blocks. Haynes did play at UConn, which a lot of people will dock him for, but not me, because it's hard to block at those high levels no matter where you play. But there are other negatives that I have against him. He's pretty undersized at 6'3", 317, which lands him in the 25th percentile for height. He has a smaller wingspan with average arm length that will give translation concerns for pass pro. He tends to play overly aggressive at times and will lose balance when beat. Finally, he will sometimes block past the whistle, and even if it wasn't called in college, it will probably be flagged in the NFL. In a normal class, Haynes might be the number 1 interior offensive lineman. In a class like this, he's number 4. He gets the same exact grade as Puny, B grade, 69 overall, late second round talent. Alright, the first 2 prospects I mentioned were guards. What if I told you that the top 3 guys on my list are all center prospects? That begins with Georgia center Cedric Van Pran, who I am a lot higher on than the normal person. I promise it's not elite school bias. Van Pran is an elite center who deserves a starting role right out the gate. The technique kicks things off here as his ability to establish his hands quickly and use great grip strength to hold off defenders is crazy good. He also moves well laterally, able to kick outside after the snap and use pull blocks and even just straight up pass blocks to showcase his athleticism. He gets upfield quick, and with his nice length he is able to make contact almost every time. He's also a great situational blocker, being able to manipulate defenders' mistakes to his advantage. Something about SEC schools and their blockers being able to do that so well. So Van Pran has such an intriguing combination of physical and athletic traits along with pass block and run block traits. So where does he lose? Well, there are some concerning inconsistencies. The inconsistencies start with what he does best, his technique. When he establishes hands, it's fantastic. When he can't establish them, he gets pushed around fairly easily and loses balance. The balance just isn't great in general, as he could play overly aggressive and fall forward with that bad balance. Finally, he needs to be better at not only recognizing blitzes, but also picking them up at higher rates. So Van Pran has the inconsistencies, but at his best, he's a phenomenal center. Just like the last two guys, Van Pran is a 69 overall B grade with the late second round nod, but I promise these next two guys change that memo. But I'm going to go against the memo when I'm talking about my number 2 interior offensive lineman. I'm going to talk about Oregon center Jackson Powers Johnson. Most people have the Oregon center at number 1 on their interior line list, and while he would get it in basically any other class, there's one guy who I'm higher on. But that's not to underestimate how good this guy is. He's got fantastic play strength with this very good hand technique. He can just throw people around. His explosiveness is visible right out the gate, and he's able to sustain his blocks as well. Even when he's not blocking at a time, he's super patient and knows exactly when to pull the trigger for a help block. But that's not all. He is great at transitioning between blocks. He showed potential alignment versatility at the He moves well laterally and upfield, and he's impossible to get around when part of a double team. There are so many great traits that JPJ has, so I'm not surprised that he's being mocked at the number 1 guard and center off the board. But his weaknesses is what brought him down to the number 2 slot. He is one of the biggest victims to the overly aggressive allegation, but his is more that he can just get hit happy and make some bad decisions. He does also play too compact at times, and he could definitely utilize his length more efficiently. His pad level can be a bit upright when in pass pro, and just as a minor concern, he's a poor recovery blocker. But these strengths and weaknesses prove that it took a lot to beat out JPJ for number 1. And the grade proves it more. He gets an A- grade, which is an early second round talent, and a 73 overall. But someone else had to get number 1. So with that being said, the number 1 interior offensive line in the 2024 NFL Draft is West Virginia center Zach Frazier. When I watched Frazier, I was shocked to see that he deserved that number 1 spot. But hear me out here. The film shows a lot. Frazier is an experienced center with a fantastic combination of physical and athletic traits. He's explosive off the snap, he has fantastic grip strength, he puts together a great initial strike which is even better with momentum, and he's a fun upfield blocker with interesting straight line speed. Yet what I love the most is that his hand technique is elite. Wide arms that punch extremely early and get a head start on the physical battle in the trenches. But that's not all. Frazier also is a fantastic recovery blocker who puts forth great effort from start to finish. If you want to see an example of all of this on display, watch him play Texas and their elite defensive line. Frazier held his own against some of the best college defensive players in the country. But what makes him even more appealing as the number 1 prospect is that I only have 3 negatives to his name. The negatives are present though. They begin with him letting athletic rushers choose their poison too much. It's almost like he stands there like, come at me, I'm here, and then the rusher can just go where they want. He also has the straight line speed, but it only translates to average lateral ability, so he will probably struggle against these athletic rushers in the league. Finally, he does tend to pull the trigger too late on block transitions, so basically, all of his negatives have to do with his timing. Frazier does have some concerns, but not as much as everyone else, and that's why he deserved the number 1 interior O-lineman in this class. He also received an A- grade and an early second round nod just like JPJ, but I had to give him that 74 overall. Just like the offensive tackles, the interior O-line class is also stacked, so let's give shoutouts for 6 through 10. IOL 6 is Michigan's Drake Nugent. IOL 7 is Boston College's Christian Mahogany. IOL 8 is TCU's Brandon Coleman. IOL 9 is Michigan's Zach Zinter. And IOL 10 is Texas's Christian Jones. So, those are my top 10 offensive linemen in the 2024 NFL Draft. What do you think of my list? What does your top 10 look like? Let me know in the comments section below.
Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.